my name is Sharleez Moneem, and I'm the founder of Project DermYouth. I wanted to start a video podcast series. I feel like we see so many podcasts, and I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this? Well, yeah, you're supposed to learn. But sometimes I feel like you just don't know the person who's being interviewed, you don't know the person who's doing the interview, and honestly, I feel like that's kind of like demotivating almost, and I feel like I just wanted to share a little bit of context. So I wanted to start a video series called Meet the Future Changemakers. So Meet the Future Changemakers is supposed to be where I interview my peers who I'm surrounded by, and I'm gonna be honest with you, these people are absolutely insane. Like, I cannot tell you how insane they are. Like, within this series, we're going to meet people who have spoke at the UN at 16, somebody who wrote a legislation at 16 about antisemitism, and so many other things that are so impactful. I think there's so much just stereotypes that teens can't do it because of your age, like, or your age restricts you, or teenagers are just so dumb. But then you realize that there's a whole group of teens who are making so much change in the world, and that's just so belittling. So in the first series, I'm interviewing Ethan Cohen, which is one of my peers at Snap. And what we talked about was, we talked a little bit about his legislation, we talked a little bit about what it does, and this gives you more context on how to create change. So Ethan was absolutely incredible to interview. I couldn't emphasize more how just insane it was. And we also talked about some things like safety concerns and some other things you're going to hear more about. And honestly, what you can take out of these podcasts is you can write notes, or it's meant to inspire you to create change in your community. Like, for example, let's say you saw Ethan create a bill, and this motivates you to create a bill in your state as well. And that's the change that I want to make. I want to help the young generation see more change around them. Just because on TikTok we see so many people just doing get ready with me's and dancing online, but that's missing the whole point. Yes, a group of teens are like that, but it's not inspiring. And this is meant to inspire kids to make change in their community and believe that they are the change makers. Enjoy. Hi, thank you so much for being willing to be interviewed.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So what's your name? Where are you from? And why did you apply to SNAP's council?
So my name is Ethan Cohen. I'm from Las Vegas, Nevada, and I really wanted to join Snapchat's Council for Digital Wellbeing because obviously Snapchat has such a large global presence, is like such a big brand, especially among youth, and being able to work with them directly on things that can improve the online experience, create safer, more enjoyable things that kids our own age could feel. That was something that was really appealing, to be able to be directly involved in that process, going hands-on, creative, and innovating. That was just something that I found super exciting, and really grateful to have finally been a part of this council and now working with Snapchat.
For sure. I mean, it's such a big national level council that we get to impact teens all around the country. It's unbelievable to think.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's your favorite part about the Snap Summit so far?
I think, like, first off, I think everything has been like absolutely amazing. But I think one of my favorite parts was when the Snapchat staffers sat down the parents and the teens, and they got involved in like sort of like a roundtable, but it was more informal. It was basically just kids, parents, and Snapchat employees bouncing ideas off each other on ways to improve the platform, make it a lot more efficient and accessible, improve things like reporting, and being able to be in that environment and just having to be in like a brainstorm session, but with some of the, obviously most creative minds, our nation has from a youth perspective, since they're selected for this council, people who run the platform, and our parents who provide an important perspective on how we should manage our lives digitally online as well. So just being in that environment, collaboration, and like problem solving was something that I really appreciated.
100%. I think it was so cool to identify the gap between the discommunication amongst parents and teens. Like, I feel like that was something that we really hold on to, that many parents think that teens are just wasting their time on social media, and it could be the complete opposite, to be honest, right? We're spending time doing so much productive things. Like, I don't think we would even find out about this program without social media. I think that's for many of the council members. So what's one thing that you've learned that you've been surprised about?
I think one of the things that I've learned like specifically is just the amount of like the importance of communication between people involved in the social media process, but also just any process in general. I think learning about opportunities like Family Center, which is a way that like parents can monitor like their teens' activity on Snapchat. I think like having that open line of communication between teens and parents, and looking at solutions like Family Center that still provides like teenagers the autonomy they want, but also gives parents some oversight that they also might want. I think like being able to appreciate that communication that exists between saying like a teen may want complete privacy on social media, but a parent might want to know what's going on. So having solutions in place like Family Center and being able to access those solutions by the teen and parents sitting down, understanding what exists and how they can work together, I think that was the most important takeaway I learned. I think that can be applied to anything, not just social media. To being able to work with the people around you and like analyze the environment, look at what's available, and then take what's available and then work with those people around you to create a better next step.
100%. I feel like it was just so amazing to discover Family Center just because I feel like a lot of people just don't know about it, and it's really nice to see how parents can also monitor their kids on social media safely, especially because there's so many parents that have concerns about their kids, which is completely like it's valid to be honest, especially because all of the stories we've seen in the headlines, but sometimes those are just purely anecdotal, and it was really nice to see how Snapchat is just combating that through Family Center. So, what's one piece of advice you'd give to other high schoolers?
I think one of the things that I have learned specifically from like the top CEOs and innovators that I have looked up to is the importance of perseverance. And I know that's sort of like a cliche topic, but the way I like to look at it is looking at something as if you're bound and inevitably going to achieve it. So if you just imagine in your mind that I have a goal and I'm going to try as many times as it takes for me to reach that goal, even if you know you're running into setbacks, you know that because that goal is inevitable, it's just that process of getting there. So I like to imagine whenever I run into setbacks, I like to imagine just the next try is the one that's going to be my last to achieve what I want. And even if it's not, just having that mindset is what separates like the people who are able to continue to innovate and create. So that's been something that I have really looked up to, especially with someone like Evan Spiegel, who has done a lot of like he created Snapchat, which is a completely unique social media platform. There's really nothing else that is very similar to it on the market. So I think just having that mindset is really important.
I totally agree. I feel like Snapchat is just so unique compared to Instagram and TikTok, right? Because Snapchat is used for just purely communication, especially among such a young audience. And it's so nice to see Snap is taking so many precautions to make sure that the users are safe. Okay, for like this is kind of a difficult question, but describe your Snap experience in one word.
One word. That's a hard question.
Exactly.
I think I would just have to say engaging. And the reason I say that is because of sort of the multiplier effect that Snapchat offers. What I mean by that is if you're starting at a new school and you add two people, then using like the quick add feature and using like mutuals, you can add like your whole grade in a span of a very short amount of time. And I think having that multiplier effect, whereas regularly you might have to go and ask for everyone's numbers, or you might have to flip through on Instagram and look at like the following and followers list. On Snapchat, you can just go on quick add and see, I'm already connecting with these people. There are these other people in my grade who I know about. Now I can actually just like engage with them by just clicking add, and just simplifying that process and making it a lot easier to expand your social network and meet new people, create new opportunities. So I think engaging would be the best way to describe it, just because it's such a force multiplier when it comes to meeting new people and creating those collaborative opportunities.
100%. I totally agree. I feel like that's so amazing that we get to connect with our entire community within just a couple minutes. I think that's just amazing to see within social media. And can you talk a little bit about your legislation in your state and how it impacted your community? I know that it's something very dear to you, especially since it's about your religion. Do you think you can talk about it a little?
Absolutely. So in Nevada, I co-authored a piece of legislation called Senate Bill 179. So I worked with State Senator James Orenshaw from Nevada, and I worked with him on, from the bill language and brainstorming all the way till getting passed and signed by our governor, Governor Joe Lombardo. And essentially, the bill created a definition of anti-Semitism for the first time, and it filled a gap because there was no resource or tool to help those to identify what anti-Semitism could actually look like in communities. So it created a stronger protection mechanism for roughly the 100,000 Jewish Nevadans that live in my state. So it was really a privilege and an honor to be able to be a part of that initiative, since I love being able to create an impact, and being able to do so on a scale like that has been something that I've been really really grateful to have done.
Can you talk a little bit about what inspired you to create the bill?
Absolutely. So I think because just of the tremendous rise in anti-Semitism over the last few years, especially, just being able to go at it through like a policy perspective, and being able to, you know, create opportunities that could impact so many different people, was something that I was really, drawn to. And I think when you create these opportunities that, increase, civil rights protections for, any group, I think it makes it easier to create like a better environment for just everyone in general, because from then on, you can continue to create, legislation that can improve communities. So I think, one starting step can be like the ripple effect that can impact a lot of other things.
100%. I think that's really important that you did that in your community.
Thank you.
I think it's very much appreciated for so many Jewish people in your state, and I think that's amazing to hear that you made that action, right? Like so many adults could have taken that action, could have taken that step to actually define anti-Semitism, but you did it, and I think that's just so valuable, and that's so nice that we get to see teens actually taking action, and that's really great to see.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Can you talk a little bit about your storybook? I know that you had a kids book, and I think that's just so cool.
Absolutely. So I'm the founder of an organization called Youth Can Do It, which is essentially an organization that is designed to empower kids with the confidence, motivation to not only achieve their own goals, but create an impact in their community. And so the book that Sharleez was mentioning was a story about a group of kids who make a difference in their community, and really realize it's all about kids recognizing, when kids read that book, it's showing them that at any age they can still make a difference in their community. Right here we're just high schoolers, and we're already advising a huge multinational brand like Snapchat.
100%.
So being able to really get kids motivated on getting them on the ground level, and just being able to start early, so that you have that effect over time. It can just compound and create, who knows what could happen, create inventions or scientific discoveries, or programs to benefit the community. Just getting them involved early can be the difference between something happening now, or we have like the world having to wait another few decades between something that could be revolutionary.
Exactly. And I feel like it's so important to emphasize that teens can do it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I feel like we've been told that teenagers are just dumb and we're all just watching brain rot, and that's not true, right? We have teens making legislations. We're having teens advise an entire council. And I think it's so important to motivate other teens to take action in their community, in their state, in their country. And I think that's so important that you're doing that. Can you talk about a little bit about what have you been doing in your storybook? I think you mentioned a little bit about taking it to, like reading it to children. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I've been able to work with partners like the YMCA in my local community, and go to other schools, community centers. I've worked with UNLV, which is University of Nevada, Las Vegas, to go to their summer camps, junior achievement, and I've also specifically targeted areas that might not be as economically advantaged, to make sure that and Title I schools, just to make sure that kids, regardless of income level, can still feel that same sense of empowerment. And so it's just really getting to work with them on a one-on-one level, sitting down, like literally just opening up the book and talking to them about the story. I found has been super effective. And then afterwards, kids come up to me and say how motivated they are to continue their own service journey, or something that they never thought of, they're now going to go do, and with their siblings or with their parents, and creating that effect with other people in their community too.
That's really nice to hear. I think that's so inspiring just for this interview, right? Like teens get to understand that, hey, you can do it. You can take action in your community. You can take action in your school. There's so many ways where you can step in and intervene and make change. Because just because your age doesn't matter, I think. I think it just matters if you have passions, if you are dedicated, and if you're willing to take out your time and make that change. So you heard it. Thank you so much for the interview.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.